act like this is something I'm the one who signed up to do this.
Okay. Let's do this!
Oh, and the last one, I feel book drunk. I guess which one? You're wrong. I may never recover from this book. Oh, hello. Today we are starting a very intensive vlogging experience that I am trying to do as much pre-work for as I possibly can so that I am set up to succeed for something that I said I was going to do at the beginning of 2023, and it's time to pay the piper. It's the beginning of October and I am starting preparation for my reading all of the long list for the Goodreads Choice Awards in the mystery thriller category. This is a companion project to one that I did as a collab with with many people at the beginning of the year, where a bunch of us read 10 years worth of Goodreads Choice Award winners in different genre categories. So I took the mystery thriller category and read that 10 years worth of winners. And I would not say that that was a successful project in terms of my enjoyment, but I do think it was a successful project in terms of it was really interesting to think about some of the trends. Depressing to see how much Stephen King has dominated this category in the last 10 years, considering that I don't think a lot of the books that won I would categorize as a mystery thriller, I didn't think that they were winners. So I mean, all in all, it was not necessarily like enjoyment wise super productive, but it was so fun to do it as a collaboration. I had the best time talking with everyone about it. And at the end of that video, I said, well, if I read the winners, I feel like this is the first year I should do the video that I know from Books and Lala. I don't know if she was actually the first person to do it, but I think she's definitely the popularizer of this as a concept. The reading all of the long list in a category in a given year. When I said that, I was 100% thinking about her doing that, as well as Meg with Books took this challenge on last year. And so that's what I was thinking about. I think some other people had also had that thought in that collab. So we agreed that we would do another collab where we all read the long list. So definitely check out the description below. I'll have a playlist linked. We are all planning, as of right now, to drop these on the same day. I feel like I can be long in this because this is just gonna be a long ass video. Hope we're all settled in, ready for that. I say all that because today I was doing some pre-planning and I wanted to share my initial expectations and thoughts. So I have throughout the year been gathering potential titles that I think could make this long list and putting them into this graphic that you are looking at now. I am limiting myself to no more than 48. So as of this filming, I think I have like 42, but it will not go over 48 I decided that's how many I could fit onto this slide. And I've been keeping track of, okay, what has Book of the Month Club picked as a mystery or thriller? Reese's Book Club, what is, a sequel that's coming out this year? What is, various big authors, what are their new release this year? People who typically get nominated. So I've been keeping track of all of this, and I feel like I'm gonna have a pretty high hit rate from this list of books that I have been compiling, but I'm sure that there will be some curveballs. I'm sure that there will be some books that I have never heard of, but that everyone else and their mom has heard of. But I do have some that I am fairly confident are gonna make that list. And so before we even get into the heat of the moment, I'm gonna set myself up for success by doing some pre-reading. I will rejoin you in November when the list is announced, and I always do a live stream reacting to the nominees, so I will cut in my live stream reaction to show you guys what my initial impression was. Well, first I will cut in my final list of ones that I am guessing are gonna make the cut, the ones I've been tracking. Then I will cut in the live stream reaction, and then we will regroup, talk about where things stand in terms of things I've read and what I'm going to read and what my strategy is going to be. So join me won't you, for this interesting journey that we have ahead. I act like this is something I'm the one who signed up to do this. I do this because I think it's fun, but I'm also dramatic, so, let's just roll with it.
Okay. Let's do this! Here we go. Mystery thriller. Oh, okay. All of these were on my radar and I thought were possibilities. Lisa Jules is my prediction to win.
Oh yeah, she's definitely up at. I knew she was going to be in there.
Yeah, I feel like it's her year.
Reading all the nominees.
Yes.
Woo!
All 20.
There's 20?
Yes. First of all, I can tell you right now, this is number 11, and Mama ain't reading books 1 through 10. I've read What Lies in the Woods. It's good. I DNF'd. I have some questions for you.
Ooh.
Oh, God, I knew it was going to be there.
Which one?
Alice Feeney. No!
Wait, does Frida got 2 or Frida got 2?
She's got 2, and I counted this one out because I assumed that The Housemaid's Secret would make it and that this one wouldn't.
I feel like
I think he could win.
Every year, but this year especially, people are like, "Oh, this is extra good." I was like, "Oh."
I think it's more that his last 2 have been kind of crappy, so I think people are just excited that this was a decent one. Okay, I actually have to say, I feel like I did pretty good. My fundamental mistake here was assuming ones that were sort of on the border with another genre would go to the other genre, and that is not what happened in any of those ones that I was
in historical fiction.
That's what I thought it would happen. But I actually am excited to read this because it sounds good.
Okay, so it's been a day since I found out, and we've been moving and grooving here. So I have put in some holds at the library. Sadly, most of the books that I need to read are not going to be available probably in the time frame. Like, most of them have at least 9 to 12 weeks of a waiting list. So, I've put in holds where I can. I think I'm gonna get a couple of them in physical form. Wait times, both the ebooks and the physical book wait times were just super long. So that makes sense since this was a popularity contest that the books that I need to read are popular. So here were the books that I had already that I pulled that I thought I might need to read or I might have to review. And yeah, of these, we've got What Lies in the Woods, and the only one left are the only of those I need to worry about. The rest, not so much. So I thought I could tell you about the books I've already read, including the book that I did read last night and through today, because I've already read one. So, of the books that I've already read, we'll start with the 2 I have in physical form. So, The Only One Left by Riley Sager, I liked but didn't love. I gave it 4 stars. I think that this is one of the better Riley Sagers I've read because for me it was entertaining. It delivered that sort of like secrets from the past, conspiracy theory, isolated kind of creepy house type story. And this one is sort of a take on a Lizzie Borden-esque character who is now elderly and dying, and the nurse who was hired to come take care of her. Did she actually kill her family? What's going on in the present? All that. So I gave this 4 stars. The ending is a choice, and it's not going to work for everyone. But for me, it was kind of campy and fun, so I went with it. What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall is a small town secrets from the past story about friends where 3 go into the woods, 2 come out kind of thing. Like what happened back then, one of the friends stayed, the other one left if I'm remembering rightly, and the one that left is coming back, and what happened back then is coming back up. This is so Kate Alice Marshall also writes in YA, and in my opinion, the tropes in this and the way the story plays out is very reminiscent of YA mystery thriller. So I think that this could be a good bridging book for YA mystery thriller readers looking to start an adult, or if you're an adult mystery thriller reader and you're wanting to get a sense of the kinds of tropes that come up in YA, I think this is a good example of an adult version of that. So again, I would say this is like a soft 4 star from me. I think she's a really good writer. I like her actual writing a lot. The twists and turns of the story were a little predictable, but overall, I did like it. In terms of books I do not have in physical form, so I have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai back when that was first coming out, and I DNF'd it. I thought that it was highly pretentious, felt like it was not really a mystery thriller. It was literary fiction that was like tricking people into reading it as a mystery thriller. And I felt like it was dealing with kind of true crime, like the ethics of true crime, in it was sort of like a disingenuous posture. I think that there are a lot of interesting things to say and comment about true crime, but I think books that it feels like the author is coming from an angle of like, who could possibly like true crime? I think those are less successful versions of interrogating the ethics. Devil House by John Darnielle is another one that I felt that way about. So I hated the writing, and the themes were not for me, and it did not have enough of the mystery that I was promised on the back of the cover. And then the book that I read last night was Don't Let Her Stay. Yeah, Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders, I believe is the author. This was a KU domestic suspense, fine. Like, it's very pulpy, it's very page turner. So editing Mara popping in because I realized I didn't really tell you what this one was about. And I was looking on Goodreads to get the synopsis, and the top review is a 1 star that says the dog was my favorite character. Okay, that was very funny. There's also 1 star and it says, just started, but I can't stand Joanne. Why the hell does she let that disrespectful ass bitch talk to her like that? And in her own home, she needs to kick Chloe's stupid ass out of her house along with her husband if he disagrees. Which just, people are funny. So if you can't tell from that second one, the setup for this is that we have this couple. It's a second marriage for the dude. They have a little girl. He has a daughter from his first marriage, and it's like very cloak and dagger about like what the deal is, but she wants to come and stay. And, as you can tell from the title, maybe that is not a good idea because things ensue from there. So anyway, that's what the book was about. It keeps you turning the pages. You don't want to put it down. The writing was serviceable, and the way the plot played out, I actually kind of liked. I thought it was going one way and it didn't. If it had gone that way, I would have just been like, oh my God, I probably would have given it a 2 star. But because I actually did like the way that the plot ultimately progressed, I'll give it a 3 star. I don't think it's amazing, but I thought that it was like an entertaining way to pass a few hours. I flew through it. It was not a hard read. So yeah, if you're looking for, an entertaining KU domestic suspense, I think you could do worse. Do I think it was the best in that kind of genre family of the year? Absolutely not. So I will not be voting for it. I will give it 3 stars. But I'm not mad I read it. I had a really long, hard day yesterday, and it was very it was a good way to pass the time and sort of just be blindly entertained before I fell into a fitful state of exhaustion. Okay, and then, like I said, I've been putting holds at the library. The books that I currently have, I do have all the other KU ones, so I have both of the Frida McFadden ones and The Maid's Diary by Laurith Ann White, so I can read those whenever I want. I got The Villa by Rachel Hawkins as an ebook from the library, so I already have that, so I should read that before it comes due. In audio, I am currently listening to the 2nd book in the Richard Osman series. I have to read it, the 3rd book, and then I can read The Last Devil to Die, which is the 4th book. So that's going to be my audio journey for this entire reading project. And then in physical form, I already had Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. So I have that. And then I grabbed next day shipping on Homecoming by Kate Morton, the book I think is going to win, which is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I say that, When we get to the finalists, I will pause and do an actual analysis of the number of ratings and what the rating is. And I may revise that. But as of right now, I think this is my pick to win. And then All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. So I did that. I also put in a belated Book of the Month Club order because I realized it was cheaper to pick a Book of the Month Club as my main book for November and then do 4 add-ons because there were so many Book of the Month Club options in this finalist list. It was cheaper to do that than to buy them in physical form. And I was not going to fork out $9.99 for ebooks. Absolutely not. So anyway, I think I have a plan. I have my procurement plan in place. I've already read one, so I'm on schedule because I'm gonna try to make myself read one a day. That's the goal. So I've already read one. I guess if I want to get ahead / stay on pace, maybe, I'm trying to think. I've had another really long day. So maybe I'll do one of the Frida McFadden ones tonight because that should also be pretty mindless and entertaining, I think. Okay, maybe that's what I'll do. But anyway, so I have read four of the 20. Here's our current ranking, and I'll check in with you when I've finished something else. Okay, friends, I have had a lovely 24-hour tummy bug. I've been working when I can, but not fully because we're also right before Thanksgiving, and I just made the executive decision that I needed to focus on getting better, so I had a little extra reading time. So last night I finished The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Super fast read. These books, I think part of why they're so popular is that they're just yummy popcorn candy good times. It's no thoughts, only vibes. You know what I mean? You're there to be entertained. It is a pure entertainment. Sad. So I liked it and appreciate it for its just sheer entertainment value, but I didn't like it as much as the original, and this was way too similar to the original. I am bummed that it didn't lean more into the direction indicated at the end of the first book. So yeah, I don't know. When I think about it at all, it goes down. So we're just gonna freeze my thoughts about it in time right now and give it 3.5 stars. In terms of the setup for this one, you definitely need to read the first one first. And then this one, same main character, Millie, is a housemaid at a new client, and she is worried about the wife in the family, and things progress from there. So I think if you liked the first one and you're okay with it being quite similar, I think you could also like this book, but we'll see. The other thing that I spent more time reading, because it was meatier, is Bright Young Women, and I have officially gone on Goodreads to change my vote currently to this book, because this is between a 4 and a 4.5. And I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because it is what I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai wishes it was. This is a book that's actually interrogating true crime. I think the narrative structure of this, Jessica Knoll found a way to make a serial killer book centered on the victims. So this is basically a thinly changed up retelling of the Ted Bundy story, particularly the phase of the story when he murdered 2 women in an FSU sorority house and severely maimed 2 others. Our primary character is the president of that sorority house who saw him that night. The thing that holds this book back in my estimation is the number of it jumps around in time a lot, and we also have a dual timeline with another character who is a suspected victim of this serial killer. And I think between that and I think it's a little long. I think 100 pages out of this, I think it's just under 400. I think if this had been right at 300 pages, this would have been absolutely amazing. But I think that this is actually doing the interesting theme work around true crime, some of the ethics around it, and what does it actually mean to recenter the victims in the stories of these horrible things that have happened to them. And I think part of the struggle with that is that often the reason the serial killer is the one who gets centered is because they are the connective thread that goes through each of their victims. And in this case, by like going through the eyes of a survivor as well as a victim, or like at least a suspected one, I think she was successful in recentering those who had this perpetrated against them. Also deals a lot with misogyny and the whole women being victims and being infantilized. And it also is a lot about the validity of lesbian relationships in the 1970s and 80s. Like, this goes in a lot of places. It's set in the 70s and 80s for the most part. So like, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, if you want like an actual novel that reads like a crime story, it's not quite, I wouldn't say it's necessarily that thrilling, maybe like a mystery suspense serial killer story. If you want one that is actually, I think, really satisfying to those of you who are crime fiction readers, that also has a true literary quality to it, I would definitely recommend this. Certainly over, I have some questions for you because I think that this comes from a much more thoughtful and like engaged place about what makes these stories interesting. And then this actually reminds me a lot of Notes on an Execution, but maybe like one step down on the literary and one step up on the crime story. So if any of that appeals to you, I would definitely recommend this. Like, I'm super glad that this entire exercise pushed me to read this because I really enjoyed this, and this is definitely one that I will point people to if they want mystery that is reckoning with the ethics of true crime in a way that I think is actually interesting and actually has something to say. So I've changed this to be my top runner right now. We'll find out if anything bests it along the way. Well, I wanted to go ahead and make sure I read my library books. I do have one more, which is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. That one, though, is an ebook. My two physical ones that I got in advance of this weekend were After That Night by Karen Slaughter and Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. And I DNF'd one of these and finished the other one. I guess which one? You're wrong. You're wrong. If you're a watcher of this channel, I bet you thought that I DNF'd the Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. I finished this one, and this is the Alice Feeney that I've finished that I've liked the best. After That Night by Karen Slaughter, I actually was quite enjoying the characters and writing, but this entire plot, like, what page am I on? I'm on page, let's see here, 64. And the entire thing is about a sexual assault case. And I can deal with that if it's sort of in passing or it's like skimmable in a mystery thriller or suspense. But this, like, that is what this is about. Like, it is about sexual assault. It's about a current sexual assault trial. Like, there's an entire, like, interrogation of the medical examiner about it. And then the medical examiner, who I take it is one of the main recurring characters, Sarah Linton, she also is a survivor of rape. And so we're also hearing about her. So it's just like the point of the book, and I just can't keep going. It's too much. So but I'm intrigued by the writing and these characters and the setup. So like, if you are a reader of this series and you have a recommendation for a book in the series that does not feature that as heavily, I would definitely be open, because this is probably writing-wise what I've liked best from Karen Slaughter so far. So if you've got a recommendation of one that's not as heavy on the sexual assault side of things, definitely let me know, because I'm open to trying something else in the series. But I DNF'd it because it's just too much. But I did finish Good Bad Girl. Okay, so I have finished 3 Alice Feeney books. No, that's not true. I finished 1 Alice Feeney book. And I gave it 1 star, and it is probably my second least favorite book of all time, and that is Daisy Darker. Just because I was so sure, I was like, surely she's not, like, there's some twist, and it wasn't. There was no twist. She was doing the thing, and I was just, anyway. So I finished that and I gave it 1 star with extreme prejudice. Then I DNF'd rock, paper, scissors because I wondered where it was going. And when I realized what I thought was happening and double checked at the end and realized that was the ending, I also hated that ending. So I DNF'd it with prejudice. His and Hers, I DNF'd but was not hating, but I just was bored and couldn't keep going. So that one was without prejudice. That was the most successful one so far. This one I was tempted to DNF a couple of times, but it was okay. This was okay. I think part of what I don't, so set up for this one I should say, is that we've got 4 point of views. We've got Cleo, Edith, Patience, and Frankie. And Frankie seems like she's kind of off on her own island and she's retiring from this prison librarian gig and her daughter is missing. Patience is like a teen with a mysterious background, but she's working in this nursing home. Edith is a patient at the nursing home, and then Cleo is Edith's daughter who put her in the nursing home, and Edith like hates her for it. So, and then there's a murder, or a couple of murders, and what's going on? Who's who? What twist is gonna come? Here's the thing. If you are somebody who can deal with Alice Feeney's writing, because that is part of my problem, I do not enjoy her writing style. It feels overwrought. It feels melodramatic, but not in a fun, campy way, in like a self-serious way. If you can deal with that, and you're somebody who what you like in mystery thriller is a twist, I see why people like this. I personally find it to be very boring and not fun to spend the whole book just waiting for the author to go dun dun dun. Here's the thing, I find that dull and not a fun reading experience. I much prefer, like, I know that they're not in style anymore, but something like this that are like police procedurals where like there is a mystery. Like at some point there is going to be a dun 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 moment, but the author isn't trying to like pull one over on you. The author, like you're kind of going along with the mystery and like learning about things as they go. There can be twists in that context, but it's something about the tone, and there's this expectation in this type of subgenre of book that it's like the author is constantly trying to one-up what they've done previously. The audiences for this, I feel like, are like borderline cruel in some of their reviews about like, you didn't fool me this time. And it's like, okay, if you've read enough of these, there's only so much they can do. So just that whole dynamic of like trying to one up a twist and trying to make you think this instead of that or whatever, it doesn't feel clever to me. It feels contrived, and the reading experience I find very tedious. That's basically my feelings about this. I think that this is probably a pretty good version of that if you do not find that reading experience tedious the way that I do. And there's exceptions to every rule. I have definitely read things in this, arena where I did like the twist and therefore it didn't feel tedious to me, or I didn't necessarily expect that there was gonna be a twist and then there is one and that wasn't my reading experience, so I got to just enjoy the twist without anticipating it. Like, there's always exceptions, but anyway, this is very much prototypical of that style of a thriller, and I think it's probably an okay version of that. It just is not for me. So that being said, between this and Daisy Darker, 1000% like this better than Daisy Darker. I'll probably give this a 2.5. It's probably really more like a 3, but the writing style really does annoy me. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5, which to me is like C+-ish territory, C+, B-. And yeah, twist. My first DNF during this vlog is not the Alice Feeney, it's the Karen Slaughter. But yeah, I'm glad that I've got these taken care of. And we're on track, guys. I'm proud of myself. I think I probably will read The Villa next, since I have that out from the library. I'm still waiting for a couple of holds to come in from the library. I've got a big old Book of the Month Club box coming, so I have things I can keep reading while I'm waiting for particularly my Richard Osman holds to come in from the library, but we're gonna keep on keeping on. Probably this weekend, So I'm at the end of a weekend and we're coming into Thanksgiving week. So I'm probably gonna have more time towards the end of the week. I need to start figuring out what I'm gonna prioritize reading on work nights versus when I have a little bit more time. Because I think over the Thanksgiving long weekend, I'll have some time. So maybe I need to sit down and figure out what I think the chunkiest books are for me to get through and focus on them. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll check in when I've read some more books. Okay, we are, I believe, officially more than halfway through the list. Feeling good. I have, I think, pretty much kept to a schedule of a book a day. Now, granted, I have not tackled any of the chunky big boys, and I have been doing some like rereading in between. So like when I finish with work, I read the book and then I like do whatever. And then when I actually go to bed, I reread like some Mariana Zapata as a little palate cleanse. But we're in a pretty good groove with that. We'll see how much longer I can keep that going. We are coming up into the Thanksgiving long weekend, so I am planning on tackling the bigger books then. But let me catch you up on the 3 that I've read, I believe, since last we talked. First of all, The Villa by Rachel Hawkins was unfortunate. So it's not... The writing was good, and the elements of this were something I should like, but somehow it was still really boring. So it's a like murder house kind of book. So our main characters are Chess and M, and they are like best friends, but kind of frenemies. They're both authors. Chess is more successful, and M is going through a divorce, and Chess invites her to stay at this Italian villa that is this like notorious murder house from the 70s murder. Part of the problem here is we have a dual timeline, and you guys know how I feel about those. And we're going back in time to the original murder, which is very clearly modeled on the time when all of those artists and like poets and writers were together, and Mary Shelley, née Wollstonecraft, wrote Frankenstein, like very clearly modeled on that, but like turned murdery and in the 70s. So all of that is stuff I should like, but I just thought it was boring and it just did not come together. So I'll give it 2.5 because the writing was good, but it's definitely my least favorite from that author. So I read that. Then I read The Coworker yesterday, and that one is fun, but if you think about it at all, it completely stupid. So The Coworker is, there are 2 titular coworkers who are in cubes next to each other. They work for this sort of like MLM adjacent nutrition supplement company, and one of them's a salesperson, the other one's an accountant. I will say that the accountant is very clearly meant to be autism rep. Not sure, though, frankly, because of how like non-representative of anybody who's not like white, straight, cis, whatever. It was at least nice to have a little bit of some kind of diversity, even if it was not necessarily that well done, in my opinion. But anyway, the neurodivergent accountant doesn't show up for work, and she's like uber punctual, and the other coworker picks up her phone when it's ringing, and she can hear her on the line saying, "Help me." She goes to her house. There's a shit ton of blood. What happened? This is clearly derivative of at least one book that I can think of. But like, there's something about Frida McFadden's writing that is just so incredibly bingeable. It's just, it was, I think, almost 400 pages, and I read it in like 3 hours. Like, it just flies by, and you know, there's just something to be said for that. So I gave it 3 stars because was I entertained? Was my palate cleansed? It was indeed. So I wouldn't say it was good. It was my least favorite so far from this author, but it was still entertaining. If I was picking between The Housemaid's Secret and The Coworker, I would pick The Housemaid's Secret. And then the one I just finished after I took a break to dry my hair straight, which I have literally probably not done in 4 years. It was very weird. Anyway, The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok. And I don't know how to rate this, guys, because it's not, I mean, I guess you could call it crime fiction, but it doesn't belong, I think, in a category called mystery thriller this does not belong in. So as a mystery thriller, I would give it like a 2. As a story about immigration, like, and kind of a darker story about immigration and including some crime elements in it, I would probably give it like a 4 because the writing is really good. It's following Jasmine, who is pretty much our main character. She is a Chinese woman who was married, I think, at like 14 to this absolute asshole. He tells her that their daughter died in birth, and it turns out that he actually adopted her out because of the one-child policy to this couple in the US. And Jasmine like gets away and wants to go try to find her daughter, and her husband's like stalking her. And then we're also following the couple who adopted her daughter, and the wife works in publishing, so there's like a whole plot there. It's very well written. I really like Jean Kwok's writing. The only thing I'd read from her before was her entry in the Marple short story collection that came out last year, and it was tied for my favorite with Ruth Ware. So like, I really genuinely love this author's writing. It's very good. I thought as an exploration of like interracial adoption, international adoption, the choices that women have at different times in history and places around the world, you know, domestic violence. Like, there's a lot of things that this covers that I think are interesting, but I just don't think it makes for a satisfying mystery or thriller. Sorry, like, they should have put this in general fiction, and all those girlies who are just dying for some actual plot in some of those books would eat this up. So like, if you want general fiction that actually has like plot to it, would totally recommend. Like I said, I love the writing. I think it has some interesting themes, but I'm gonna say that as a mystery thriller, it's not great. So I guess I'm gonna give it a 3-star. I feel kind of bad because it's a better book than that, but I feel like my experience of it was kind of ruined by not having the correct expectations going into it. But to be fair, part of why I left it off my prediction list was because from the back of the cover, it sounded more general fiction-y, and I was correct, it is. So yeah, that's a bummer, but don't let, if the book itself sounds interesting to you, I would recommend this. So like, don't let what I'm saying put you off, because I do think it's a good book. It does not belong in this category, in my opinion. So there we go. I think my big book I'm gonna try to tackle tomorrow is Homecoming. Let me grab my copy. Here we go. This is chunkier, and I think it's sort of more like better quality prose that I'll probably need to linger on. I should say, the nice thing about this one was that it was hella short. I don't even think this was 300 pages. So even though the prose was nicer, it was short, so I could still get through it pretty quick. This is chunkier, it's longer. I'm expecting to spend more time with it, so I think this will be an all-day read, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm gonna like this. I'm very excited that this pushed me to try this book, because I would not have made time for Homecoming without this project, but I'm excited to read it. So yeah, more than halfway through. I will say the one area I'm not making good progress is on my audiobooks, because I just haven't been in the mood for audio. So I will need to do that at some point, but that's a future Mara problem. For now, night night. I'll talk to you tomorrow about Homecoming. Oh my gosh. I feel book drunk. I read and I read and I read, and yet there are still more books to read. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I make it out of this alive. But it's been a few days and I have finished 3 more books. These were the 3 books that I was pretty sure were going to be the hardest to get through, or like require the most attention. And I was correct that they all required attention, so I'm glad I saved it for my long Thanksgiving weekend. As you can see, I put up the tree. We're officially into Christmas season here in the Likewell household, and I took the opportunity to read a lot. So, okay, where to start? So first of all, I'll just say that we have really 2 days until we find out the finalists. Today is the last day that you can vote, but we won't know who the finalists are until Tuesday. Me and Jess are doing another live stream for that, so I'll find out that there. But I'm also pretty good way through. Let's see here. I've read 14 of the 20 books. It's pretty great, actually. Good job, me. Okay. So, with all that being said, that's kind of overall where we're at. In terms of these specific books, I did not find something to replace my current vote, which is Bright Young Women, but I did find a new runner-up. So let's start my least favorite and work our way up. The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger. This was fine. This was like, I think I ended up going with a 3.5 just because I kind of feel bad giving this a 3-star. Because it's better. Like when I think about the other things I gave 3 stars in this project, it feels wrong to give this a 3-star, but this is fine, which is how I think of a 3-star. It's literary. It is an actual mystery. I will give them that. This is actually a mystery, but it's like more kind of like on the literary end of things. And I think part of the problem was I didn't love the writing. He's going for this sort of like third person omniscient, chatty storyteller kind of vibe. And I'm trying to find a good excerpt, but I don't. One's not jumping off the page to me. But anyway, he's going for that kind of tone. And it's unfortunate that I've recently read a bunch of Anthony Trollope. Like I just finished the Barsetshire Chronicles at the beginning of the month. So that kind of writing, I just recently read a much better version of it. So I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. It didn't totally connect with me. And then he's trying to get into, like race in a small town in the 50s, I believe. Yeah, in 58. Oh, interesting. Because this is set in 59. Anyway. So it's like Minnesota, I believe. Yeah, Jewel, Minnesota. And local big shot found dead. Everybody immediately suspects the indigenous dude who's in town. Who has a wife who is Japanese, and it's post-World War II, Midwest America, things are racist, things get violent. And I don't know, I don't really have a lot to say about this. Like it's like 450 pages. I didn't have a lot to say about it, which to me is why it's like fine. It had the misfortune of being read immediately after All the Sinners Bleed, which I think we'll get to it, but does thematically what this book is trying to do far better in my opinion. So there was something, what it is? This felt sort of like detached and therefore kind of like hard for me to care about. I don't know. Anyway, this just wasn't my favorite. It was okay, 3.5 stars, whatever. I will not remember anything about this book in a year. Then in the middle, which I did enjoy and will remember, is Homecoming by Kate Morton. I just finished this. Now I'm very embarrassed because I was mistaking Kate Morton for Kate Atkinson, who wrote Life After Life, which I think I read in college and liked. I've read at least one Kate Atkinson and enjoyed it. That's who I thought this was. This is not that author. This is the author of The Distant Hours, which Bethany gave to me for a challenge, and I DNF'd because I did not get on with the writing, and it was too long and rambly for me. I did still find this to be overwritten, but I was more connected with it, and this is pretty engrossing. I think pacing wise, if I think about this as a mystery, I don't love it because, anyway, the setup for it is there's this little place in southern Australia called Tambia, and there's this infamous murder that happened in 1959, and this family is all killed. They kind of think they know what happens, it's solved, but not everybody agrees with how it got solved. And so we have one timeline kind of in that, when it first happens. You guys know I don't always love a dual timeline, but this time I was okay with it. And then there's another timeline in 2018 with this woman named Jessica, whose grandmother Nora is dying, and so she comes home to Sydney from London, and she is finding out how her family is connected in with that past murder. There's also a book within a book. So there's a book that is about that crime that we get to read in here, which I love, a book within a book. I think that was part of what helped me with the pacing in this one, because it is meandering and very slow paced, very character driven, but I actually really liked the characters, so I was into that. Yeah, I enjoyed this. I think my problem with it as a mystery, if I put my mystery hat on for this, is that I guessed by about the 100-page mark pretty much all of what happened. I don't think that's great. I don't know. There wasn't enough complication to the mystery plot itself for my tastes. Not that I feel like I'm contradicting myself because I'm like, you don't need a twist. You don't, but I think that like a good mystery has interesting things that you discover along the way. And usually you will find like something towards the end that will change how you see how all the facts go together. And I think to me, a twist it's more the execution of that information being delivered. To me, a twist is like, dun, dun, dun. And the author like wants you to be like, oh my God, I could never have seen that coming. And, you know, shock, awe, and that feeling is what you're getting. Whereas with a mystery, like you're getting more information as things go and you're like getting a better picture of what happened. And some of those things should be interesting and surprising along the way. And if you're not getting a lot of like, basically if I can correctly predict in a nearly 600-page book what the solution to what's going on is at roughly page 100, that means in my opinion, it's not a complex enough story if I'm thinking about it as a mystery. Now, if I'm thinking about it more as like intergenerational family drama that has kind of like a crime component or a mystery plot engine, I don't think you need it to be as complex because that's less what you're reading for. You're reading more for the family part of it. But this is being positioned as a mystery. So when I engage with it as a mystery, yeah, I just feel like if it's 600 pages and I pretty much know what happened by page 100, 150, you needed some more layers to the story. So on a plot level, I can't give this more than a 4-star, but I really enjoyed this. And it was like a nice long kind of like 2-day read, which I've not done in a while for this kind of book. And it was nice. Some of that's because I've not read fantasy in the last couple months very much. Okay, there was that. And then my favorite thing I read over this little stretch is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This is my second S.A. Cosby book, and I really need to pick up more from him. I think, though, part of what really works for me in this book is the like trope set that it has, because it's a small town sheriff, and he is a black sheriff in this place called Sharon County, and it's like hella racist. There's like these alt-right group who keeps trying to have like Confederate parades, and like, so he's a black sheriff in a small rural area, and there's a school shooting. The shooter is a young man who he knows really well, like his dad is like one of his best friends, and the kid shoots this beloved teacher. He is then shot by one of the deputies, like suicide by cop kind of thing. And so like they're investigating that, and in the course of that find out that there may be like a serial murderer, serial predator situation happening. And I just really love the way that this unfolded. I love the beginning and the ending. Like the beginning and ending were 5 stars for me. The middle was like a 4, which makes me think I should give this like a 4.5. I gave it a 4. It's like on the border. I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it. But I just like, the writing in this is so beautiful. Like I said, I think this is how you actually talk about racialized violence in a rural community versus this. Like there's just something more honest or like deep about his portrayal of it, I think. And I don't know, I just love his writing. Here's an example of the writing I love. The South doesn't change. You can try to hide the past, but it comes back in ways worse than it was before. Terrible ways. You might sigh and look away and say, the South doesn't change, just the names and the dates and the faces. And sometimes even those don't change. Not really. Sometimes it's the same day and the same faces waiting for you when you close your eyes. I don't know, it's not that that's like flowery, but I think that is nice writing. It has actually something to say about like the nature of systemic, generational injustice in the South. And I loved the ending, and it made me cry, and there's a father-son relationship in here, and he just seems to like both books I've read from him. I read this and Razor Blade Tears. Oh my gosh, complicated father-son relationships like kill me. So he does that really well. Yeah, my takeaway from this is I just need to read more from him and keep my eye out for when he has a new book, because this was great. I don't know that all of his books will be for me, because sometimes the trope set doesn't really appeal to me, but I think I'm going to be better about when there's a trope set that I like. Small town serial killer is definitely something up my alley, picking it up. So I'm like 4.5. maybe I am going to bump this up to 4.5. I don't know. I don't think I like this quite as much as I liked Bright Young Women, but it's just like just under it. And yeah, this was great. So, considering this is the only one of these I think is possibly going to make it to the top 10, this might end up being my vote. Who knows? Okay, so that's where we're at. What's next? I've got 6 more books to read, but I actually have 8 because I've got to finish the 2 Richard Osman books, which I have been making a little bit more progress on. And I think that's where I'm going to try to focus for the next day or so. Like, I feel so book drunk and like just tired of looking at pages that I think switching to some audio would be good. So I think I'm going to do that. I might reread some Honey Phillips, honestly. Like, rereading the 7 Brides for Seven Alien Brothers series right now sounds great, like a good palate cleanse, whatever. Ideally, in the 2 days before the finalists are announced, ideally I would also finish Happiness Falls because I don't think it's gonna make the top 10. And if it doesn't, my desire to read it will just like fall off a cliff. So yeah, okay, so with that being said, so I have like a new ranking. Still, my vote is going to Bright Young Women, but like, you know, I've slotted the rest of them in. And then I did pull up, let's talk about what I think is going to make the top 10. Now that we know for sure which books are in the top 20, I need to do like a new top 10. And this time I'm going to go strictly by the numbers. So actually, you know what? Let me screen record this real quick just so that we have it. When I sort these by the number of ratings, it's very clear The Housemaid's Secret is going to win because it both has almost twice as many ratings as None of This Is True. And it has a 4.28 average. So surely that means that's what's going to win. But, which I don't love, but you know, it was a fun book. I guess I can make my peace with that. Okay, but if we look at the average number of ratings, we have like the top 4, yeah, like these are going to be the top 4. None of This Is True, The Only One Left, and All the Dangerous Things. And they all also have more than a 4-star rating. But then we had the Frida McFadden in 5th place that is under a 4-star, and then a couple more that are under 4 stars but have a good number of ratings. And then it kind of just like is dwindling. How did The Leftover Woman make this list? Because it only has 6,200 ratings. It only has a 3.86 average. And it's like not really a mystery. Like, how did this make the list? I don't know. Okay, so if we look at it strictly by the ratings, you know, that would be kind of the order, or sorry, the number of ratings. If we look at it by the average ratings, we get a little bit of a different picture because The Last Devil to Die, which is the 4th book in a series, so it does, usually the ratings do go up on series because only people who like the series are still reading it, but it still also, I think, had like it was in the top 10 for number of ratings. So that's impressive. And then we have The River We Remember, which I disagree with. After That Night. Okay. So, okay, here's going to be the criteria for my predictions. I'm just going to go in order of ratings and a number of ratings, and it has to have more than a 4. So number 1 is going to be Housemaid's Secret. Number 2 is going to be None of This Is True. Number 3 is going to be The Only One Left. Number 4 is going to be All the Dangerous Things. Let's see. Number 5 is going to be Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders, which is so interesting. I think one of my takeaways from this time around is the power of Kindle Unlimited. But anyway, that's going to be number 5. Number 6 is going to be The Last Devil to Die. 7 is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. 8 is Homecoming. Okay. 9 is The Maid's Diary. And 10 is All the Sinners Bleed. That's, I guess, my theory of this. Let's see. Is there anything? Yeah, I mean, I love Bright Young Women. I just don't think it's going to make it. And then, Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's going to be my new top 10 prediction based on numbers and not feelings. If I put in the ineffable, like, je ne sais quoi, I do still think None of This Is True has a good chance to win, just because I feel like this could be Lisa Jewell's year to win, but I'm not gonna bet on that. Yeah, I'm not gonna bet hard money that that will happen. So I guess my official prediction as of right now is The Housemaid's Secret, and my official favorite as of right now is Bright Young Women. So I'll check back in with you either at the live show or right before if I've made meaningful progress, but we're in the home stretch because we got roughly 10 days left. I did make a little more progress before our finalist check-in, which is just here in a little bit, but I DNF'd Happiness Falls today during my lunch break. I made myself get to the 50-ish percent, not percent, 50-ish, page 54. I made myself get through 50 pages just to be sure, but like, this is big red F, not for me. It reads like quirky YA voice, which I don't like. I don't like it in YA contemporaries, and I don't like it in something that's supposed to be an adult mystery or suspense. Setup is that there is this dad that goes missing when he's on a walk with his autistic son, and the narration is from one of his 20-year-old twins. They're trying to figure out what happened to the dad, and also what happened to their little brother. So it's supposed to be like quirky and whatever, but the writing and the voice was big red F, not for me. So did not like this. Adored The Man Who Died Twice. Obsessed. Gave it 4.5 stars. Can't wait to read The Bullet That Missed, which is number 3, so that I can then read The Last Devil to Die. But all in all, where we're at is going into the finals. I have read 15 out of the 20 books. So proud of myself. And I have to read one more. So I have 6 more books to read in the next 10-ish days, 9, 8-ish days. I don't know what the calendar math is off the top of my head. Anyway, I am going to finish setting up, and then we have the live show, and I can't wait to see what is in the finals and how close my guesses are.
Okay, all 3 of these were in my predictions, so that's good.
Oh yes,
we made it! Bright Young Women.
Oh, look at that!
Oh my gosh!
Yay!
Okay, how? Whoa! Okay, I am shooketh.
This looks pretty similar to your list.
It is, but how did I have some questions for you? Make it. It is so bad. It's a 3.64 average.
What is the cutoff? 3.5?
Yeah. It's so bad. Why did it... No, I have at least The Maid's Diary by Laretha Ann White did not make it. Okay, that's the one I have left that I've not read that did not make it, but the other 4 did. Okay, so I am thrilled that Bright Young Women made it. I did not think that it would. That will be what I still vote for tonight. As of right now. I might change my mind after I've read the last 4. Well, no, I'm still going to read all 5. Okay. So the ones that I've not read that I have to read are None of This Is True, Vera Wong, and All the Dangerous Things, plus The Last Devil to Die, but I still have to read The Bullet That Missed before I can read The Last Devil to Die.
Devil to Die.
I am
covers are fun to me. Like anytime I see them, I'm like, I haven't bought them, but I just they. Is this the Thursday Murder Club?
Yes. Can't wait to keep going in the series. So
The Man Who Died Twice. Was that a Richard Osman one?
That's book number 2. So the first one I gave 3.5 stars to. I thought it was.
This is the 3rd one?
This is the 4th one.
Oh my lord.
I know. So, and
I didn't realize 4.
No, I know. But
checking in because I have finished 3 more books. We'll go in order of best to least best. So best was definitely The Bullet That Missed, which is book 3 in the Thursday Murder Club books. Sorry, words are hard. I'm filming, so I'm just been talking a lot. Bullet That Missed, Richard Osman, so good. The mystery is not as strong as The Man Who Died Twice, so I gave this one 4 instead of 4.5. But the character work is amazing, and I'm really nervous about someone is gonna die, and the last devil to die, just based on people's comments, I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen, and I think I know who it is, and I'm really, really upset about it already, because I love these characters. That is the strength of these books, is the characters in the context of this mystery plot, and yeah. So I have one more book to be caught up, and that is The Last Devil to Die. So that will be my audiobook, my next audiobook. We have that. I gave All the Dangerous Things 3.5 stars. Look, this is just not my kind of book. It's just not. It's a domestic suspense. This woman had her son snatched out of her house in the middle of the night, and she basically has not been able to sleep properly since then. Her marriage fell apart, and her husband thinks that the son is dead. She's convinced he's still alive. Things progress from there. The writing is nice, but it's fine. I just don't like it. It's not for me. It does have some like true crime podcast elements, so it's fine. I feel very blah on this. I only read this a couple days ago and I already have kind of forgotten a lot of what happened. Whatever. I think if it's more your kind of trope set, you might like it better. Then we come to a book that I am shocked is as popular as it is, and that is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. The thing this has going for it is that the writing is nice, but what the fuck? I don't get this. So the setup is we have 2 women who happen to meet at a bar on the night where it is both of their 45th birthdays. They were born in the same hospital the same day, so one of them is like, oh, we're birthday twins. We have this interstitial, what is happening kind of in real life, with the Netflix documentary that is later made called something like, hey, you're my birthday twin, or something like that. Because one of them, Alex, is a true crime podcaster, and so she gets this Netflix series, so we're getting these interviews and whatever from the Netflix show. Okay. This has some of the weirdest messaging around, like, I can't tell what the book's posture is on if pedophilia is bad, and that is not something I should be questioning. I don't know if there was like an extra layer of commentary here, but like we find out, and I guess this is a spoiler, so maybe skip ahead 60 seconds if you don't want to hear anything about this, but like within the first 50-ish pages, we find out that one of the women got with her now husband when he was in his mid-40s and when she was 15, and he had started grooming her from when she was 13. She is a very complicated and difficult woman, so like it seems to sort of like insinuate she goes on to be whatever, so it doesn't matter that she was abused. I don't know, guys. It is so strange. And when I posted my review on Goodreads, I saw some people commenting like, yes, okay, I kept waiting for you to get to this because I wondered what other, I don't know, maybe there's some layer of commentary that's happening that I just don't get, but I just don't get it. And so I gave this 2 stars, and this is my least favorite one that I finished so far. We did it, guys. I'm done. I'm done with all the books. Oh, and the last one almost destroyed me. Okay, so I had 3 books left. One was The Maid's Diary by Lareith Ann White, and it was garbage. No, I mean, kind of, but also like it was fine. The writing was fine. It was domestic suspense, which my like big takeaway from this is like I need to stop. Well, I'm very rarely tempted by a domestic suspense these days because I've learned, but like, I don't like it. I find it boring. I find it tedious. I find the motivations annoying. And also like, they're almost always these affluent communities of some kind, and I just find that boring, and they all just, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of like what's going on in the world, but I'm like, I just don't care about your problems, and the character work is never good enough to make me care. Anyway, so I was like not loving it, but I was like, okay, maybe, you know, three stars, 2.5. And then the backstory / motive of this is handled so distastefully, in my opinion, that I couldn't give it more than a 2. So I'm going to give it a 2. Oh yeah, did I tell you? So the titular maid is working for this couple, this rich couple, and she's like spying on them. That's like her bad habit as a maid. And she knows she shouldn't be, and she knows she's going to get caught at some point, but she just can't help it. And eventually, like, she finds something out, and it's not good. And we're also getting a point of view from this detective because it's like dual timeline. Anyway, I didn't like it. 2 stars. Blech. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is the second book I've read from this author, and both of them are very voice-driven, very character-driven books. The first book I read was Dial A for Aunties, and I picked that one up expecting a romance of some kind, and it wasn't really. It was sort of like it's a genre-defying book, I feel like. It's wacky. And this one is less wacky and more an actual mystery. So Vera Wong she runs Vera Wang's world famous tea house, which she does so that people think it's Vera Wang. And she's in Chinatown in San Francisco, and it's sort of like not going great. She knows she's gonna have to probably close the tea shop soon. She has the son named Tilbert, which what a name. And she's always kind of hassling him. Anyway, she's very set in her ways. She goes down to her tea shop one day and there's a dead body. And she calls the police, but before they get there, she swipes a hard drive that he had in his hands. And from there, we get sort of like cozy mystery, basically. This is very focused on the cast of characters around her. And I felt like some of those characters were a little samey. Like, I just don't know that we needed all of them because they didn't feel very distinct. I mean, she feels very distinct. And there's a couple of them in there that I think feel a little bit more unique, but you know, one of them is the widow of the murder victim. Yeah, anyway, it was good. I enjoyed this, but it didn't feel like amazing. It felt entertaining. It was entertaining. Like I said, it's very voice driven, so I enjoyed the writing. I don't know if Jessie Q. Sutanto, if her plots are really for me, but I will say I would call this a cozy mystery, and I liked this, which is rare. Like, it didn't feel too cutesy. So for that reason, I'm inclined to give it more like a 4-star versus a 3.5. I feel like I was kind of in between. But now that we're talking about this, I do feel like this is a 4-star because I'm a hard sell on a cozy, and this I enjoyed. So 4 stars for that. And then the last book I read, and I just finished. I tried to record a clip to talk to you guys about it in progress because it was so much and so emotional, but I was literally weeping, like ugly crying, listening to The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. And how dare you, sir? Like, this book is so good. It is getting my vote. The last book I read is gonna be my vote. I can tell you, having read all 20 of them, I would, in terms of their quality, the only 2 I think that hold a candle to what this book is doing is Bright Young Women and All the Sinners Bleed. But I think that this is more impressive because it is more genre, Like, it's more entertainment driven. It's a comedy. I think it's more impressive that it is as emotional and has so much to say about end of life and about what it means to live a life of like dignity and purpose and love. There are beautiful lines in this that made me cry, even aside from the things that were happening. I can't tell you about this book because it's the fourth in a series. I forget if I told you what The Man Who Died Twice and The Bullet That Missed were about, but I gave The Man Who Died Twice 4.5 stars. I gave The Bullet That Missed 4 stars. This is getting 5 stars. This has the plot, so there's sort of like a drug plot, like a drug deal plot, and one of their associates or like friends who we've met in the previous book is murdered at the beginning of the book because he's an antique dealer and somebody's trying to like use him to launder some money, and something goes wrong and he's dead. So there's that. There's an older gentleman in their community who's getting scammed, and like they're trying to help him. We have a new person, a new character named Computer Bob. If he was in the earlier books, I don't remember him, but he was adorable. I loved him. Bogdan remains so hot. Guys, I don't even know. And then Connie, I was actually kind of like connecting with, you guys read these books. The first book I gave 3.5 stars to. I think the first book is the weakest. The other thing I will say is please listen to the audio if you have hesitations, because I think the performance is great. And for me, I think this is true with a lot of humorous books, the performance of it helps communicate the humor. But the writing is great, the characters are great, and I thought this plot was as good as The Man Who Died Twice. Book destroyed me. I have a headache from crying, and I loved it so much. 5 stars. Last book I read for this, and it's getting my vote. My only 5-star. So, you know what we're gonna do now? I have been editing as we go, but I need to like watch all the footage back, and then I will do a wrap up to make sure we have covered everything we need to cover. And I'm going to talk about what I've learned from this process, from this experience, and how I'm feeling now that we've reached the end. It feels weird that we've reached the end. I'm finding myself like weirdly like sad, but also so relieved because I have so many other things I need to be reading. Like I'm so behind in other commitments, but anyway. Richard Osman was coming for my throat with this one. I may never recover from this book. This book wrecked me. Tragedy has struck the project. I thought that I knew what the dates were. I thought I had them correct. But I did not. And so I did not actually get to vote for my favorite book in the Goodreads Choice Awards. Now, granted, I did vote for my runner-up. But I thought that the last day to vote was the 3rd, but it was the 4th. And... Okay, so if Last Novel to Die loses by 1 vote, it will be my fault, and I apologize for that. But we've come to the end. We've got quite a little stackaroo here, so let's see if I can... Here you go. These are the ones I have in physical form. What's my takeaway? Well, for one thing, I am now obsessed with the Thursday Murder Club series. So much so, I ran out at lunch today and grabbed a physical copy of The Last Devil to Die because it was my only 5-star read from this. And I'm so glad, so maybe starting with like books I'm glad that this pushed me to get to. I'm so glad that this pushed me to get back to this series that I had started last year and didn't have any real urgency to continue with. I'm obsessed with this and I love it. And apparently he's taking a break from this to write something else next year. And honestly, sir, how dare you? How dare you do this to me and then just like walk away? I will definitely read the next thing he publishes. I'll be excited to start that, but I'm so glad that this pushed me to give this a try, even if I'm now living in agony of a series that's on hold. I'm also really glad this pushed me to go ahead and read these two. They were kind of on my radar, but this one I figured I was gonna have to read for Goodreads Choice Awards. And this one I picked up just in case, and it sounded interesting. So I was like, oh, I wouldn't be mad if I ended up not having this on the list, but reading it eventually. I'm so glad I did. It was my number 2 and my vote, it turns out. But I'm really glad that I got to both of these. I would describe both of these as firmly being a mystery suspense in this case, and like actually both of these are serial killer thrillers now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, this one more of a serial killer suspense, this is a serial killer thriller, and both of these are firmly genre fiction that also have a high literary quality, proving that you can have both. So I'm really glad that it pushed me to read that. The other ones that come to mind as making me glad that I read, one is the Vera Wong book, just because it's so rare that I enjoy a cozy as much as I did. And then Homecoming. I don't think that this is a great mystery thriller, but I did think that this was a fun intergenerational, fun is a weird word, an engaging, captivating intergenerational family story with characters I really liked, that had a strong kind of like mystery plot component. So I'm glad that I got to both of these. And then I'm also glad that I tried the Will Trent series, even though I DNF'd that one. That one wasn't for me, but I would definitely be interested / open to reading earlier ones that are not so focused on sexual violence. So those are all ones I'm glad that this made me read. I am gonna say though, pretty much everything else I could have done without. I mean, I guess I'm glad I figured out that I do kind of like Frida McFadden as sort of like a popcorn, pulpy, very voice-driven, page-turning book in this genre. I've not loved a book from her yet. I did really like the original Housemaid, but I think it's really more just her writing I like than that individual book. So if I'm ever looking for something that's just sort of like fun popcorn fiction, I definitely have her in mind. But pretty much anything else, I don't know there's many of these that I'm mad that I read. Are there any that I'm mad I read? Yes, okay. So the ones I'm mad about. Well, I've got 2 of them in physical form and 1 as an ebook. So I would say I'm mad that I picked these 2 up in physical form because I had to, because the library was not my friend in this case. And this one I think was at least worth trying, because the synopsis made it sound like something I could like, and I gave The Family Upstairs from her 3.5 stars, so there was a world where I could have liked this, but this is my least favorite thing I finished, so I think I'm definitely disappointed I read it in that sense. And then this is maybe the one I'm most annoyed about, because I didn't want to read this. I DNF'd it, even though I now have it in physical form, and I have to do something with it, perpetuating my own wasteful book footprint. I don't know. This one I'm mad about. If you like something that reads like YA, go for it, but I don't know. It wasn't for me. And this is just, I don't know. It's interesting because I've heard there's a lot of people who love this book. So don't take my word for it, read some reviews. Other people had more fun in this. I have also heard that the audiobook of this is great and really well performed. So it's interesting to think about the degree to which that performance is driving enjoyment of the book, which is always true when you introduce an audiobook into the mix. But anyway, this as a physical read was not very engaging, kind of dull, and at the end, I just had major questions about the book's posture on a very serious topic that I don't feel like I should leave the book having questions about. This is not a high enough work of art that it should have been in question. If there was something she was doing with that element of the marriage, I'm trying to be vague because I know I didn't want to spoil it for people. People think there's a deeper meaning about marriage, let's just say it that way. You can let me know, but I think the book is just kind of shitty about that, to be totally frank, and I don't like this. I was trending towards a 2.5 or 3, and then when I realized that, I was the best I can do is a 2. This is the one I'm most annoyed I read, because I do have it in physical form as well. Even though, I guess in the sense of it could have been something I liked, I don't know. Anyway, the other one is The Maid's Diary by Larry Than White. I found the backstory in that one and the way it was handled very distasteful. The writing is good. I would read something else from her. I think I have a book of hers on my TBR because it is an isolated close circle mystery. So like, I'm not saying never to that author, but I found an element of the backstory to be distasteful and fear-mongering in a way that I did not enjoy. And it's a domestic suspense. Okay, so let's talk about like big picture things that I took away from this. This is such a long wrap up, but it's such a long video, so I guess we're all just here. So things I take away. One, I don't like domestic suspense. I know that about myself, and I need to not be lured in to a domestic suspense book, even if everybody's loving it and even if people say this one's different. Sometimes they are, and if I end up having to read them for some kind of challenge, I'll do it. I'm sure that I'll have ones I like, but in general, I just don't like it and I should stop trying. Like, I've read enough at this point in the last few years that I should just let it go. So there's that. I would say this year in general, a big trend is sort of meta elements to the books, particularly, or like maybe not meta, but true crime commentary is a very common theme. We see it in this. Oh gosh, so many of these. It's in All the Dangerous Things. There's an element of that. There's definitely in this. This has like a famous murder as the backstory. The villa has a murder house. Yeah, just in general, that is like a really big theme that different people are exploring. I have some questions for you. Oh my God, definitely. So this whole question about true crime, I think that's been like a very on topic, in vogue discussion in the last few years. That's come up a lot. And it always, like, if it's an old conversation, it's always kind of going on. People both like hand-wringing about true crime and other people being fascinated with it. There's a lot of nuance and complexities. Some books I think handle that with more sophistication than others. I would definitely say Bright Young Women is one of those that handles it with a lot of sophistication. And I have some questions for you is at the polar opposite end of that. So, you know, the commentary on it is on a continuum, but it definitely does seem to be a very common theme. There is a lot of like class stuff, I feel like, in this year's nominees. Like, there's two that are explicitly about housemaids. You can also see that in some of the like immigration topics that get raised with Leftover Women, The Leftover Woman, and Vera Wong, that book. That also segues into some of the like racial, those two books have a lot to do with like the Asian American experience, but like The River We Remember and All the Sinners Bleed have a lot to do with like small town racism, which also has kind of a class component to it. Yeah, I feel like class was kind of a theme in these books. There's also a lot of books that are about that are literary adjacent. So I think that's because it's easier to put some of those books in Book of the Month Club boxes and stuff. So I wonder if that's a part of it, is just like adding kind of a more like general fiction or literary fiction element makes some people who don't consider themselves to be genre readers more open to reading genre fiction, and therefore they get picked for these book clubs, they get picked for these subscription boxes. That drives up their numbers, and therefore they're more likely to be popular enough to make this list. So yeah, there's that too. The final thing I would observe is, now having read the winners of the last 10 years and then reading a year of nominees, the overall quality and enjoyment factor of the nominees is much higher. So even though I'm saying that there's a lot of these that I'm not particularly like happy that I read, I definitely did not have as bad of a time or as disappointing of a time as I did reading the winners. Most of these books, even if they weren't my thing, there was something in them that I could enjoy. There was something in them for me to get something out of. I would say probably my top 3 rows, so the top 15, there was some enjoyment factor to them. So as compared with the winners, where like there's just one or two on that list that I could say, yeah, I found that entertaining or enjoyable or edifying, I think there's definitely a higher rate of that on this nominee list. So I guess what I'm saying is that there's more depth, variety, and interest in a given year's nominee list than there is in reading the winners, because the winners tend to be so bland because they're appealing to the widest number of people. So that's kind of my, at least, hypothesis of why I had the experience I had with each of these lists. So, all that being said, having read all 20, my top one is The Last Devil to Die. I did not get to actually vote for it because I suck at planning the dates on this, but I would most recommend. Also, it's not lost on me that this is the closest to an actual mystery, but anyway, you're not ready for that conversation, Goodreads, with your 3,000 domestic suspenses and thrillers and one mystery. And to be fair to them, that's partially to blame of publishing and what they're pushing. But anyway, my biggest takeaway, this is what I would have voted for. This is what I did vote for. Number one. Number two, if I were going to give you anything to read from this, I would tell you to go read this series. If you just want to read a single book, I would probably recommend either Bright Young Women or All the Sinners Bleed. If you don't like a serial killer book, if that's too much for you, I guess I would say either The Only One Left, if you're down for like a Secrets from the Past / scary house kind of trope, or if you're into something a little cozier, this one. This, to be fair, this is actually a mystery as well. So 2 out of 20, I'll give them that. So yeah, I feel like I can't wrap this up. I feel like I can't say goodbye. This has been so all-encompassing in my life for the last month. That does it though for this video. And the day this is coming out, you should have a bunch of other videos to go watch. I will have the playlist linked in the description box. Please go check out everybody who is participating. I will also link them. Also, I should say that all of this is just my experience of these books, by the way. There are other people who have very similar taste to me, who have very different opinions about some of these books. So always check with lots of people before coming to a conclusion about a book, because everybody's different. So yeah, that will do it for me. Go check everyone else's videos out. Go read some of these books if they sound good to you. Let me know what you thought about this list or anything having to do with the Goodreads Choice Awards below. I will not do this again next year. It's very high impact. I cannot believe that Kayla from Books and Lala has done something like this for so many years now. It's too much for me to do again, I think, but I'm glad I did this. This was, I think, educational and hopefully entertaining for you. So let me know what you thought about it. And I think that will do it for me for now. So if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did because it's a long one, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!